The Asian growth story is continuing, unlike sluggish economic performance in neighboring regions. With this growth has also come burgeoning optimism in the wealth management sector. Here to share insight, James Benoit. James, thank you so much for joining me today. Now tell me about how the sector of wealth management is evolving.
Wealth is not really ever destroyed, it just kind of moves or changes shape. So total global wealth is in excess of $50 trillion. That's up 14% year over year. So even in the markets that we're close to in Africa, up 7%. So there's still 150,000 high net worth individuals in Africa with an excess of 1.3 trillion of worth. So, wealth is still growing no matter what's happening in the global economy.
You talk about sort of this first generation that's really had access to funds that perhaps never has existed before. Tell me, how do you place your bank in this growth story?
Well, we're a niche provider, so people expect us to have insights into Asia, to India, Africa, whether it's linked to gold or commodities or linked to those stock markets. So we provide a lot of asset classes, funds, structured products, which take advantage of what's happening in those economies. That's the insights that we bring, being AfrAsia Bank, sitting in the middle of Mauritius between all those Indian Ocean economies. So people come to us for insights in those markets, and that's what we try to deliver.
African, Asian consumer, they're going to be asking for something different. What asset classes really appeal to them the most?
They still like gold, even though gold has been beaten down and it's been very volatile, but there's a passion for gold. They also like real estate. Real estate is always very popular, so we have opportunities linked to real estate as well, and then commodities, and also just emerging equity market stories. So they're very keen to invest in their region.
Now, Mauritius has a reputation, as some of the other islands nearby, that it could potentially be a tax haven. How does the government restore faith that they're really taking a get-tough approach on regulation?
Well, Mauritius always ranks amongst the most compliant countries in the world, whether it's the OECD or FATF, so we have state-of-the-art legislation. Recently, there's been several high-profile cases where they have cracked down quite determinedly, so it's never had any major convictions or offenses linked to whether it's India or the market. So it's taken very seriously because we don't want to have that reputation as a tax haven per se. And, Mauritius is 1.3 million people, so it's a real economy. It's a financial services center built on top of a real economy, which is linked to Asia and Africa. So we're really serving those people who are doing business in that part of the world rather than just the wealthy from anywhere. So that's our speciality, and that's what Mauritius is doing.
If you could advise the government tomorrow on how it could go that one step further to instill confidence in local clientele and those internationally, what would you say that the government should do?
Global standards are global standards now, so there really is no way to avoid that, and the faster any jurisdiction gets up to that speed is better. So Mauritius has done a good job of that, but still probably to tailor it to our core markets, Asia, Europe, Africa. The US is the US, but we're more probably likely to do better by tailoring our legislation to those key markets and make sure that we're aligned, because really there is no way to avoid what is now a very complex and increasing global regulatory framework.
So as you look at those particular regions, where do you place your bank in the growth story moving in the next few years?
Well, I spent most of my career growing up in Southeast Asia, and Southeast Asia is still booming. I'm now based in Mauritius, capitalizing a lot on Eastern Africa. And for many of us, that market reminds us of Asia 20 years ago. So I'd say India, Africa is still very much in their early stages of growth. We positioned AfrAsia Bank in Mauritius to be right in between Asia capital, Africa's need for capital, and also Europeans and other people doing business in the region. So we're really becoming a gateway, a financial center for the Indian Ocean.